Hello, NattyCasters. When we developed the idea behind the NattyCast, it seems it was for episodes like this one. Alton Fitzgerald White, raised in Cincinnati, attended the School for Creative and Performing Arts, Mufasa and the Lion King. Check, check, and check. While not much more needs to be said, his story runs so much deeper. And as we got into the studio, we realized we had our first two-part episode as there was so much ground to cover in Alton's personal circle of life. Wait a second. Matthew, I'm sorry. I know you told me no cheesy Lion King quotes. All right. Look, folks, while Matthew gets this intro edited and cleaned up, let's just get you to part one of our wonderful conversation with Alton.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the NattyCast. And now to your hosts, Tim Barker, Rex Stull, and Ron Thomas.
Were you born and raised in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
What neighborhood did you grow up?
I grew up in Walnut Hills.
Okay.
Gilbert Avenue. And then, Walters is right off of Gilbert Avenue, not far from the Harriet Beecher Stowe House.
Okay.
I used to pass that going to
Yep.
elementary school every day. Grew up in the projects, public housing, youngest of 7, 5 girls, 2 boys, but brother who never lived with us, I was the only boy in the house. And went to Douglas Elementary. From there, tested into People's Junior High in Hyde Park, which was huge for me, I'd never gone to school with white kids. And, And it felt perfectly natural, especially because TV sort of helped raise me. So,
and were you the only one of your siblings that did that kind of ventured out a little bit out of the neighborhood school?
Yeah, because they all went to Douglas and then to Sawyer, then to Withrow. But there's like a 6-year gap between me and my 5 sisters. So I kind of had to carve my own path, and also being the only boy, it was like,
oh wow,
they kind of didn't really know what to do with me.
They babysit you sometimes. Early.
It was like having 6 mothers, no doubt. All with their own idea of what I should be doing at all times. It was like
we all have plans for Alton.
One of my sisters picked me up at the airport this morning, and we got into a fight. Because I was like, you are not my mama. I am 60. She had an opinion about something. And I was like, I did not ask your opinion. This is what I'm doing. And I was like, wow. It just never stops.
But I think that family dynamic is the same.
It is.
I can get together with my brother, and you instantly fall back into whatever the roles were. I mean, he's only a year older than me.
Right.
But I'm his younger brother.
Right.
There's no question about it.
No, it's not so much falling back. They will try to force you back. It's like, I'm not going back. Right. You know what I mean? I'll respectfully. You know what I mean? But it's like, really?
And then how did SCPA get on the radar from?
SCPA was, I had an audition. I had a chance to audition for performing arts going into the 4th grade. Because I used to draw, and my art teacher, remember art in schools back in the day, submitted it and said, "Oh, this is really good." And, we set up an interview. My folks didn't know enough about the schools. They were like, "Nope, we don't want anything to interrupt your studies." And then going from the 9th grade into the 10th, I knew I did not want to go to Withrow, and I joined the choir. After overcoming painful shyness, I never ever thought I would sing in front of anybody because singing was my secret. And
did you do it anywhere in church or anything?
I did it in church because I didn't have to audition.
Right.
I was like, great, I can sing along with other people.
And God's not going to judge you. Whatever you said, you can't
exactly
lose.
Right. Exactly, yeah.
But also you're instantly in a choir. Which is nice, right? If you're trying to, what I'm saying, if you're trying to not be up front, if you're. Well,
the thing was, exactly. But the one stipulation was that everybody had to do a solo at some point. And I was like, I'll worry about that later. So they go around the whole choir and they get to me and I'm like, I'm good, thanks. And they come back a second time and they're like, you have to make this happen. And I swear to God, every time I talk about it, I feel those feelings of terror of this is my secret. And I had been teased and bullied about so many things growing up that I thought, this is my one secret, that if this is exposed and I'm rejected, it might be a wrap for me. So the morning came, and I mean, I took the choir through it of like, you know, I'm waiting for everybody to leave and then whispering in the choir director's ear. She's like, this whispering thing's not going to do it. I mean, I was terrified, dude. Yeah. And finally, you know, sang in front of the choir, and they were like, really? After all that? That's it? And the Sunday came, and I just remember looking at the ceiling and just closing my eyes and just trying to do the best I could, shaking, and I got validation. People came up to me talking about the quality of my voice, and I was like, I don't know what they're talking about, but they seem to be happy, and it seems like I got approval. And then it came like, okay, how do I get out of the way and let this thing flow through me, which was a whole other set of things. So the thought of going to performing arts, I knew of performing arts, of course, because fourth grade, I never forgot that opportunity. There was a school somewhere in the city that were artists. That. Oh yeah, because it was like, you know, it's happening somewhere.
Yeah.
And my choir teacher in the 9th grade recommended me, and I put it off because I was terrified. I was like,
had you already then moved to, where were you in high school in 9th grade?
I was in 9th grade at Peoples.
Oh, it's still at Peoples.
Still at Peoples, yeah.
Okay.
Because Peoples, this is before the middle school thing. This is when it was like junior high was 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And then 10, 11, 12.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Old school.
Yep.
And she recommended me, and I was like, in my gut, I was excited, but I was like, I just can't. I was too intimidated. And I remember we waited to the last day of school. I know this sounds dramatic, but this is the truth. It really is.
I can tell when you're talking about it. I mean,
dude, it's like I'm like,
this
back
happened
there.
5 minutes ago.
Yeah. I remember I waited till the last day of school, and I thought, oh man, like I'm gonna have to go back to Withrow with the same kids that I went to elementary school with, used to tease me and bully me and call me names. My father was one of the neighborhood alcoholics, unfortunately. So I had all that baggage, and I was like, I can't do that.
So you were fighting internally.
Absolutely.
Stage fright or whatever fright. It's stage fright. I mean, for lack of a better word, complete, almost paralyzing stage fright with the notion of, now I have to go face that.
Yes.
Which of these existential fears am I going to confront? Because you didn't have a choice anymore. You couldn't hide in the choir anymore, right? It was either go that way or this way.
Well, by this time, thankfully, because I was in the choir while I was at Peoples, I was able to overcome singing in front of the choir. I wound up auditioning for the solo at Peoples, so I was kind of had more confidence
coming out,
and that's why she was like, "Okay, you're doing solos here. I think the school would be good for you performing wise." And I was like, it just seemed too good to be true, to be totally honest. I thought that would just be beyond a wildest dream.
Well, and I suppose maybe the feeling like maybe the time had passed. Like if you'd have done that 6 years ago.
Exactly.
But coming in.
Right.
And
I was already on like a good academic track.
Yeah.
But I remember leaving school. It was the last day of school, and I was about to step on the bus, and I was like, just go back. And I ran back to her room, and I was like, Miss Turner, is it too late? And of course she was furious with me.
Wait a minute, you had literally said no.
I said no the whole year because I just couldn't quite see it. I was too afraid. So yeah, the last day she was like, Alton, you know, it's the last day of school. She said, give me your home number. I gave her my home number. She said, I'll call you and see what I can do. Next morning she called my parents, said, hey, here's an audition. And my mother.
She got you the audition.
She got me seen.
Wow.
My mother dropped me off and said, you're not coming with me? She goes, this is your dream. If you want it, you go make it happen. I was like,
wow. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Came into the building and went to the office, and I think I met Mr. Lang. I think I did some scales, and then somebody had me read something. They're like, okay, you're admitted. I think it was because I was a boy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm going to go to the school. And so the whole summer was just like, I can't believe this seemingly impossible dream is going to come true. And then, I mean, my 3 years there were just magical, man. Because I went there just like, I'm finally around kids who were doing things and acting out things that I felt but never had a community for. I always felt like such an odd kid, very sensitive and you know, loved all kinds of beauty, and suddenly I'm with kids who were like expressing themselves. Yeah. So I found my voice at performing arts.
You told a story at my dad's memorial about going from again, now you're in the performing arts school, but you're
the back to the front.
For lack of a better word, you're back in the choir. Right now, you're just looking, and all of these people who've been there forever, right, all established. You know, Well, you know what it was. Everybody, they were the
comfortable,
and then this is all
brand new.
But if you could just kind of reiterate that story about getting what pulled you from the back to the front.
Well, first of all, your dad was the first person who saw me and validated me, which is something I will never, ever forget, ever. I remember going to the orientation, and we had someone show us around, and this is blah, 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 give us the rules of this and that, and I thought she was a teacher. And it wasn't until after the orientation that I found out that she was a student in the same grade as me. I was like, she was so mature. Not even a senior, but like, no, she was so mature. I was like, you're going into the 10th grade too? It was Nancy Allen.
Oh wow, yeah.
So mature and so like, I was like, wow. And the advice she gave me, she goes, if you're new here, volunteer for everything. Sign up to usher, sign up to stay behind and help clean up because you get a chance to learn. I was like, so I followed that advice. So I would sign up to usher for everything or stay behind and help clean up this and that. And I used to love watching Mr. Stoll work because he was so intense and so passionate about it. And then I was like, after a while they started doing double takes like, who is this kid? Without saying anything. And then one day he stopped and he was like, who are you? He was like, he was like, who are you? You're everywhere. And I was like, well, my name is Alton White. So he said, are you new? I was like, yeah, this is my first year. I'm just trying to learn. He was like, okay. And I think the first thing I got to work with him on is like, there was a Commedia dell'arte thing that was happening for a minute. And I remember the first time I was on stage really feeling free to just kind of improvise. And he was like, you've got something there. And I was like, really? Okay. And then my senior year, of course, your senior year, you want to get a good part for the senior musical. Well, that year I was one of the three kings in King and I, and your father cast me as Martin in Thieves. This incredible play. And I thought for sure,
no, this is a straight play, not a musical.
No. And I'd never done a straight play. Right. And I remember there was a guy in my class, Greg Oliver. Incredible actor. Yeah. I was just like in awe of him. And I thought, Greg Oliver's going to get this. This is our senior year. Please, this dude is amazing. And when I saw my name on the cast list, I was like, and I remember, I'm getting that feeling again of like, here's someone who sees something that I can't even see. Like, I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? And knowing how particular your father was, you know what I mean? He, I was like, he sees something in me that I'm going to have to trust that he can bring out in me.
Right.
And it wound up just being an incredible experience. But that's one of those things that I will never forget of like, just a surprise.
Yeah. Did you do that on the main stage or the black box?
It was in the black box, yeah.
But by that point, you'd established that you could sing, right? You were confident in singing.
Yeah, I was confident.
And then somebody going, oh, by the way, you're going to get on the stage, act.
Yeah.
There's no song. You're not going to periodically break into song and dance, right? It's going to be,
Which is such a vulnerable thing to do coming from, because it's easy to hide behind the voice, right? People get dazzled by that, but to go...
by the way, if you have your voice, it is.
I know. I'm like,
Tim and I, maybe we took a more of a. We all have our gifts.
That's right.
You're gifted too. We're all gifted here at this table. But you know what I mean? You can kind of
100%.
Yeah, but it's like, oh wow, I've got to like really tap into some real emotion, and it was healing for me because I remember Martin had a drunk scene in there, and to like, it helped me not make peace, but helped me like really see my father a little clearer,
right?
Because I didn't really understand alcoholism the way I do now. I'm an Al-Anon. I go to Al-Anon meetings, which is that's why I've learned to find compassion.
It's interesting. You were almost doing some method acting, if you will, without even acknowledging it, right? You were digging into your own life and your own background, and probably not even necessarily consciously thinking about it as much as.
Yeah. At that age, you don't have the words to really describe those things. You're just kind of going on feeling, you know?
So you graduate, and then are you looking...
I graduated in complete denial. Denial.
You knew it was over?
And that there was going to... I was so... It's interesting talking about it. I'm realizing like how much desperation there was around me getting into performing arts and how it really saved my life. To not go back to this, after going to People's and having this great being acknowledged academically and vocally. That's where I first did my first the church solo and the solos at school, and then going to performing arts, and then going, oh my God, this is like a dream that I don't ever want to end. And so I didn't prepare for college. You know, I wound up going to, because and the counselors weren't great. So I was kind of like, I went to Ohio. I applied at Ohio University.
Were people asking you? I mean,
no. There was no,
because you weren't getting that necessarily at home.
No.
And then you have to basically rely on somebody at school doing what's happened in your past, going, hey, man, you need to focus on this and
right,
because it's
that wasn't there.
It wasn't happening, right?
And also something about, well, for me, I can't speak for every kid who's grown up in an alcoholic household, but for me, secrets were big, you know, and being a boy who had to find my own masculinity because my father was, you know, otherwise engaged.
Right.
There's a lot of faking it till you make it.
Didn't have.
Exactly.
Let's think about this. There really weren't a ton of role models around.
There were no role models. Yeah. So I really got them. My teachers were my role models from elementary on through, you know. So think about when leaving performing arts, it was like, there's nobody really pushing me. There's nobody really directing me. What do I really want to do? So I thought the right thing to do was to go, okay, this has been a great 3-year dream. It's time to get back to basics. You know, I'm a smart kid. Let me go to Ohio University and study accounting or something like that, you know. And I lasted a whopping 3 weeks.
Wow.
And which was also really painful because it was like, oh man, like I'm an artist, whatever that means.
So you drove across Ohio?
The family, we had a whole goodbye party, you know, yay, Alton's going to college.
I took my daughter for a college tour over there, and I think the last time I was over there was like maybe a party in college, but you got to drive across the backwoods of Ohio.
Yeah, it is.
Right, to get there.
It's pretty much like street. There is no highway. Yeah. It's like...
And I mean, dropping
traffic lights,
dropping you off there in that particular college town.
Wow.
In 1980, whatever that was.
Yeah. 1982.
So 3 weeks, it's your decision. I'm out.
I had a job right out of high school at something called the Cascade Cabaret. Remember the Carousel Inn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they had a big dinner theater show, and I was in that original cast. I was cast my senior year. Was excused for several days a week. I got to leave school early to attend rehearsals.
Awesome. Yes.
And did the whole show the whole summer. And when I realized things weren't working out at OU, I was like, my parents are going to be the last folks I call. So I called the old job. They're like, oh, we miss you so much. I was like, yeah. They're like, how's school? I was like, it's not working out. They're like, you want to come back? I was like, yes. They're like, you got a job. I was like, okay, great.
Can you be here tonight?
Right. I was like, I got a job. Okay. And then I did some research. Well, there were no computers for me. Yeah. I called around and I called University of Cincinnati and said, could I transfer? Blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, that won't be your problem. I was like, okay, great. So I'll go to UC and do general studies. So I had a plan by the time I called my parents to go, this isn't working out.
I'm not just dropping out of school.
Yes.
Right.
I have a job. Yeah. I will not be laying around. That's not my personality anyway. And the next semester I'll be going to UC. And they were like, and my mother, when I got back home, I had the best conversation that changed my life. She goes, Alton, do you want to do this? Be a performer? I said, yeah. I don't know how, but I do. She goes, okay, well, study it. Don't rely on the all black folks sing and dance thing. Study it to be the best at it, and do not have anything to fall back on.
Love it.
If this is going to be your thing,
wow.
She goes, this is what you do. And I was like,
The Natty Cast is supported by Mad Cheese. Mad Cheese is a completely plant-based, dairy-free cheese and charcuterie shop located in Madisonville. The owners, Cincinnati natives Heather and Reggie Donaldson, handcraft over 30 different plant-based cheeses and meats in their commercial production kitchen behind the storefront. You're invited to stop in and sample the wide array of products, book a curated tasting, or sign up for the new subscription box program, which will feature an exclusive new cheese every month with recipes and board building tutorials. For more, head to Instagram and Facebook at Mad Cheese Cincy or go to www.madcheese.com. And with that, back to the show.
That is the opposite of the advice that every parent gives their...
Man.
Yeah, especially for a black mother to her black son.
Yeah.
She was like, but she saw how passionate I was, you know. And also she tells me now that she knew that I was doing it on my own. I was motivating myself. Like I remember one of the biggest moments that was shocking for Mr. Stoll and Mr. Loiseau. You know, I got to be the opening night king in King and I. And I remember after the show, they all came back to the dressing room. Oh my God, Alton, it was so great. It was so great. Let's go. Where's your family? You want to bring them back? I was like, they're not here. They were like, what? I was like, they're not here. And they were just kind of like in disbelief. My whole thing was like, I didn't need them to be there.
Right.
You know what I mean? My blessing is that they didn't stand in my way.
Right.
You know, some kids talk about I didn't get the support. I'm grateful that I was allowed to. They saw that I was happy. They saw that my grades were up, and I was not in trouble. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Yeah.
You know. So for my mother to say that to me, she was like, "Clearly, you're self motivated. Do it.
Yeah.
Go for it."
So
And was CCM, was that the program? I mean, incredible
CCM
reputation. Was that going on then, or
it was
when you're so you're at UC, but then?
Well, okay, so I'm at UC. I'm doing general studies, and there were like I think 3 black men in the department at that point in musical theater, which was revolutionary at the time.
Right.
And one of the guys, Daryl Miller. Oh my God,
okay, yeah.
Daryl Miller was there. He wanted to do a scene from The Wiz for one of his boards, and he was like, "Alton, can you be my scarecrow?" Because there was enough black people to do a scene from The Wiz. And so I did the scene.
We have a quorum.
We had right. There's hope, signs of hope. So I did that, and then I met Worth Gardner, and he was like, "Hey, you should audition for the program," and I was like, "Cool."
Oh, so you were not in CCM?
No, I was just taking general studies.
Daryl
Wow,
just
see?
called you over, called in a ringer to help with
Yeah, because he knew I was around. I
Yeah,
was seeing him
sure.
on
No,
campus.
I mean, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you guys same class or no?
No, he's a year ahead of me.
You're ahead. Okay.
Yeah. So I get into the department, and I'm there for 3.5 years. I had a terrible time. They didn't know what to do with me. They never cast me in a show. Worth Gardner used to, go off on me in class. He resented that I came from performing arts and that I had training already.
He was
Wow.
tough.
Yeah, he liked fresh kids that he could mold.
No,
I was
he-
like, you're not gonna mold me.
He was tough. I did I ran sound for Hot Summer Nights up there.
Oh, so you've seen? Yeah,
He was tough. I mean,
you've seen and heard
Yeah.
all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was.
I was a sophomore in high school, and I was running sound up there,
Ah.
which he wasn't happy about.
Yeah.
But the fact was, as a 10th grader, I could run sound better than whoever the hell they were
Right.
training. And that's how I got the gig.
Yeah.
But man, it was tough. He was tough.
Yeah.
He was tough.
Yeah. He liked to be God.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I challenged him because I was like, I already know how to do this. And I was
Right.
like, you give me the attitude. I'm an Aries. Okay, if you bring it,
Yeah.
I'm going to put you right back. I won't start it,
Yeah.
but don't start none, won't be none. Okay.
So I just have to say, before we go on any further, I have to tell you, I remember you. I remember you bringing it in King and I like nobody else.
Oh, thank you, man.
And I was probably a freshman, 8th or 9th grade, running follow spot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you look on YouTube, Channel 12 did this.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy,
Oh, I've seen that.
I've seen it
But,
recently.
Yeah.
I mean,
Michael Hussman posted it.
Yes.
Local news never does anything like this. I mean, it was long. It was a multi-day or a week-long
Yeah, they
thing.
did like a 5 or 10 minute segment, like 5 days
Multi,
in a row.
like
Yeah.
5 nights. That's what I'm saying. It was a huge
It was
of a half hour.
I know.
news.
It was awesome.
But they're such great because again, they brought real TV footage. There's some great footage of you. So I've seen it fairly recently, and when I watched it, I mean, I just remembered because. Yeah, just so you know, I mean, just for me, I mean, I'm standing up on that light tower up at the top, on the follow spot, and it was just like, hearing you guys sing and watching you was Sheila Bevan.
Oh, Sheila Bevan.
Yeah.
Man.
Just these
Who
voices.
didn't love Sheila Bevan? Wow.
Major crush.
Oh, my. She was just, she was everything, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She
All
was
of
that
it.
girl.
Little
It
Mary
was-
Sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I just want to.
Flower child, beautiful, just very very aloof. I mean, just, yeah.
So
all that.
anyway, I just had to go back because it's always been. Again, you talk about those things. That's one of those things for me as a young burned in my mind, and it's so funny to hear you talk about where you were then.
Yeah.
Because for me, at whatever 13, 14 years old, running a follow spot, looking at the kid, you're like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Oh, man.
you never would have known the most confident, talented, radiant, right? That's what we saw.
And and that was real. I mean, I look back on it now and I go, wow, that's something that the universe gave me. Yeah. Because I don't know how I did it.
Well, because once you were out there, right, you were.
Yeah, you do it. You commit to it, and you just.
It was the getting. It was the
journey to it.
Getting there,
getting out, stepping out from that wing onto the stage. Right.
Yeah. Can I share something else? Like just for your listeners who, sometimes people think, it's so important to stay prepared, whatever that means for you, for when you get your shot. I feel like we all get our opportunities, but it's about being ready. And there's nothing worse to me than being passionate about something and letting myself playing into the exhaustion and going, you know what, I'm just gonna stop, even though I'm passionate about it, I'm just gonna stop. And then you get that call and go, man, had I not stopped, had I stayed in my faith and my own personal integrity, I'd have been prepared for this thing. Because we all get an opportunity, right? I know that I was not supposed to be that chosen one who when we did The King and I, who was followed home and interviewed and the special. That was supposed to be another actor. That was supposed to be Guy Lumpkin,
right?
And Guy just had that natural which is weird because he went to the school for so long and it seemed like people found out at the last minute, like, whoa, where's that voice been? But Guy wanted other things. Yeah. And started to rebel, and Guy was always very mature, and I know they were like, okay, well, that guy, and I'm sure Mr. Stoll had something to say in that, like, well, this dude is always there, he's reliable, he's consistent.
I've been watching him usher for the last 3 years.
Exactly, but that goes to show that, like, if you pay your dues, and we all know what our personal dues are, there are prizes waiting for us.
Well, and it's that last peak, perseverance.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we talked earlier, I think maybe it was with my brother when we interviewed him, we talked about, kind of luck being, a combination of talent and preparedness and opportunity matching up with each other, right? So, yes, you have to be lucky in life.
I don't like that word.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. But what is lucky? And we kind of boiled it down to that combination of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have to have talent, okay, in this particular business. You have to have the talent, but you have to couple that with preparedness.
Yeah.
And then you have to take those two things, and what the school and people like that were able to do is create the opportunity, right? Because
I like that better, create the opportunity.
You need to have all of those pieces coming together. You created some of your own opportunities. You put yourself through stage fright, fear, whatever, into a situation where the opportunity was then created.
But what is it about the luck that doesn't sit like that? You don't like when people.
Oh, I'll tell you exactly when I hit, skipping ahead, when I hit the 4,000 mark playing Mufasa in The Lion King, and Disney made a huge deal of it, which was a wonderful surprise because at that point, I learned one of the things that's really protected me in this business is not expecting anything, and I do what I do for myself. It took me a long time to not do it for validation or approval, but no, I do this to make myself proud of myself. That's the ultimate to me, right? Because you can get the compliment from someone and not feel it or not believe it yourself, right? Which means you need more of it to try to convince yourself. So luck, I mean, I got so many, beautiful texts and emails from all over the world. Congratulations and this and that. You're so lucky. Disney loves you.
Oh,
and I was just like, "Are you kidding me?"
Right.
No,
right.
Luck
I totally
did not
agree.
luck. Yeah. Luck is it's like a backhanded compliment.
Well, that's fair enough.
Because there's no
luck in and of itself is passive.
Yeah.
And to get to that point where people are sending that stuff to you, you have to be active. 100% active.
Yeah.
Luck is passive.
You're right. I had not thought about it in that context of people going, well, no, I'm not here because I'm lucky.
No.
I'm here because I worked my ass off and whatever.
And sacrificed and delayed gratification and relationships, friendships, family time to do this consistent work to the best of my ability. So I like to think of it more as if you're in your passion zone doing what you love, as long as you stay prepared, eventually you're gonna get your break. It may not look the way you think it's gonna look.
Right.
You may think, oh yeah, because I thought, okay, they're going to be doing a TV special. They're going to pick one. Of course, it's going to be Guy. Guy was that guy our senior year. It's like, and it should be because like he'd been here forever.
Yeah.
But Destiny said something else. He wanted something else. So it's like at the last minute, I slid in. So I think that's possible for anybody. But it's easy to kind of go, oh my God, this isn't going to go my way, so let me just stop because it's not going to happen for me. As opposed to going, no, let me do this to make myself proud and see myself through this process. And you just might be surprised.
The Natty Cast would like to take this opportunity to tell you about Red Oak Animal Rescue. It is a local nonprofit animal sanctuary right here in the Cincinnati area. If you're looking for a good way to give back to your community and see some cute animals on your feed all at the same time, please head over to Red Oak Animal Rescue on Instagram or Facebook, or check them out at their website, redoakanimalrescue.com. The best way to support Red Oak Animal Rescue is to check out the Patreon page and sign up for a monthly subscription, or click the link to check out some of their adorable merch. Once again, the Natty Cast is very happy to support Red Oak Animal Rescue, and with that, back to the show.
I like what you said too, with your mom, that it was about, you know, she didn't need to be there, that it was within you. Because in a lot of ways with my mom, like with like sports or something like that as a kid, like soccer bars, she would never come to games or like be there. And she would always tell me, she's like, this is your jam.
Dude.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is your, I don't like soccer. I'm not going to stand on the sidelines and have you should be doing this because you want to do it.
Exactly.
And
Did you really
I
say it's
identify with
within
that.
you, though?
What's that?
Did you really say it's within you? Did you
No,
really?
I wanted the orange peels.
No, you just said, "Oh, it's
Slices.
within you," and I'm going, "Oh, how clever is that?"
Is that our song break? Are we going to go?
It's from the Lion King.
That is
Yeah,
the intro.
It's
Oh,
from
no,
the
I
Lion King. You did say it, but
See.
you know that piece that Channel 12 did, that multi-day, that they won an Emmy for that.
Did they?
Really?
They certainly did. Yeah, you know, Jim Keen shot that, who in later years became a really good friend and mentor. I learned how to shoot from him.
Wow.
In fact, I was in his den, and there's a picture of me holding that Emmy that he won for that for that piece on the Lion King.
I didn't know that. That's very cool.
Wow. Well, before we jump ahead
Well,
to
before we go too far,
King and I.
King and I,
It's
sorry,
King and I.
King and I. Forgive me,
and
sorry.
I have to. We'll talk about it, but you just mentioned Disney. So you made 13-year-old Rex again twice in your life. You have affected me at that age. One was when I was 56, and that was my favorite movie where I could go downtown by myself was Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so when the latest one came out, I was like, I suited up the kids. Everybody was in town. Matthew's was like, we're going to see Raiders of the Lost Ark. We went in. I'm like, holy crap! Alton is in Raiders alive. I almost screamed in the middle of the movie theater. I was like, I must have seen that movie a dozen times. When they used to play for months, and I would go downtown. Anyway, I just had to tell you that because I had no idea you were in it.
Yeah, my little five lines. Yeah. I got reviewed though. Again, another thing.
Hey.
I did a little scene actually got reviewed, like one of the most poignant scenes. So I was
It's a
like,
memorable.
what?
and you
Dude,
worked with
never know.
Spielberg.
Huh?
It was Spielberg.
No, this was what's his name, Mangold.
Mangold.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Who just got nominated today for an Oscar?
Oh,
directing the
Unknown.
yeah.
Yeah. Complete Unknown.
Complete Unknown.
Wow.
Which I'm saying. Anyway,
but
I just needed to tell you.
So
thank you, man. I appreciate
you're
that.
fan geeking out here, Rex.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize.
We still got to get him from
I
CCM.
know.
to
We haven't.
New York.
I know,
That's right.
right?
Yeah,
His
I
first
apologize.
Broadway show.
It's all good.
Yeah, we're
So
still
how-
in the early
Yeah,
years.
exactly.
All right,
This
let's-
might be a two-parter too because you're fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Man.
So yes, you graduate CCM.
I didn't graduate CCM.
Okay.
So after doing six boards and doing 6 boards and being failed on 5 of them,
Okay.
being told because you do 2 boards, you're supposed to be kicked out of the department. So I always they gave me what they called a conditional failure. We're not going to kick you out. There's some work
Right.
you need to do, but
But that's not even. There's nothing
dude,
even
I
optimistic about that. We're going to conditionally approve you, but no, we're going
Right.
to conditionally fail you.
But as a kid, it was like,
Tell me-
but they still want me. I'm still in. Okay, it's sort of a failure, but not a complete failure. And then they passed me on one, And then they filmed me on the next one. They were like, we just know what to do with you. And I was like, that's it. Even though, I had this great experiences at performing arts, our school colors were black and white. I don't remember ever seeing or being in a production where the two leads were the same race at performing arts.
Right.
And here I go right up the hill, and I realized I'm never going to be cast in a lead role here.
Right.
But once I knew that, it broke my heart at first, but once I realized that, it was like, oh, now I know what to do. Like once you're dealing with what is, then you can effectively change it as opposed to like, oh, it should be or it could be. It's like, no, this is what it is, the reality. I could take what I needed, left the rest. I got a USO tour from working at Kings Island because they would pick people from the different parks, from Kings Island, Kings Dominion, Carowinds, and put together these two tours.
Well, Gene and Ryan was producing.
Gene and Ryan, exactly.
Right, yeah.
Where does that play all over the world?
Yeah, one went to the Far East and one went to Europe.
Okay.
And I got to go to Europe, and that was the one with the one male singer, 4 female singers, and a live band. And I went and saw the world for like 2.5 months. I took a semester off.
And you had never traveled like
I
that.
had never
before.
traveled. No,
Right.
I would have been out of the country.
Ohio University. That was
That was
that
was
like the drive across Ohio.
I think I went to Dover, Delaware once with my sister, but that was it.
Yeah.
And I remember coming back, and I had like a couple of weeks in between. And I've been hearing about Gus Giordano, this choreographer.
Was he in Chicago? Okay.
But a really masculine style, and one of the guys, one of the young ladies that I did the Cascade Cabaret with, her husband taught his technique. I said, let me go take some classes with him, and I love the technique.
Here or in Chicago?
Here in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
First day of school comes back, and I'm there one day, and I go, I'm out of here. Like I've already outgrown this. I remember going right to the office and like saying I'm withdrawing, and again to my folks, I'm going to work at Kings Island this summer, save my money. I'd auditioned for a scholarship with Gus in Chicago, so I went back to that dance teacher to learn his technique. Went up that summer, got a full scholarship plus work because that's when industrials were really big. There was a lot of industrials in Chicago, so there was big money,
time,
right?
yes.
Got to travel.
Wow. Oh yeah. And there was never. It was New York, Broadway. I mean, were you thinking along
I wasn't
those
thinking
lines?
that far ahead. I mean,
Really?
to me, Chicago was it.
Okay.
Because I always loved Chicago. I love that it was still considered the
closer.
Midwest.
Yeah.
It was closer.
Yeah.
It felt like the Midwest. I remember first time going to Chicago. It's like a big city, but it's still like
It
the
had that
Midwest.
hometown
Yes,
feel. Yeah. And I thought this is good for me.
That's where I started out too.
Really?
Yeah.
So
From school. I mean, after I didn't go straight to New York.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like, New York was too intimidating.
Totally.
And the expense and the crime, just what I heard. I thought,
Yeah.
that's just too much for me. So got Chicago, full scholarship, and I'm feeling that bug of like wanting to perform because part of the, accepting the full scholarship was that you couldn't do any work for that first year. And I was like,
Oh, you mean like even performing?
no, they were like, no, we're giving you a full ride.
I understand they
Right.
didn't want you going and work at Burger King in the off hours, but you
Or then what you're performing.
performing. Okay.
Performing.
All right,
And they were
wow.
like, but I was like, a lot of my fellow students had, help from their parents. I was like,
Right.
I don't have that.
Yeah.
If I call home, I'm going to get I hope you work it out. You know what I
right.
mean? That's what I'm going to get. And I understood that. You know what I mean? So, the industrials helped a lot. But then after a while, I was like, I need to make money and I miss performing. So I went to an open call for the Wiz. There was a controversial Wiz from back in the 80s where like there was a white Dorothy and a white Tin Man. It made like national news with Equity because they were like colorblind casting with the Wiz of all shows. It's like all the shows you can colorblind cast, you can make a black show.
Oklahoma, we can see it.
Okay, right.
Really? We're not gonna- The Wiz? Like
Right.
the one show?
Exactly. The one show we got.
That's the one we're going to
Squeeze
integrate.
your way into it. Okay, exactly. But it drove ticket sales. I was, hired in the ensemble and
And you knew from your CCM days, you knew the part of the Tin Man already from.
yeah, right. Yeah.
You were ready to go.
Exactly. I have to understudy actually the Scarecrow. Anyway.
Oh,
but
it was a Scarecrow. You were doing
yeah.
Scarecrow, right?
But it was a great opportunity to like be around professional like working actors. Like, wow, this is what it's like. And it's a trip because they were like, I remember they were complaining in rehearsals about like, oh man, and I was like, I don't understand. Like, why are you complaining? First of all, we're working.
Your job, yeah.
And I'm
you have
like,
a job.
I just came from doing like 5 shows a day at Kings Island. We only do 1 show a night? What?
Right.
Are you kidding me? Like, I just didn't get it. So I was
Yeah.
like, and I'm so grateful that I always had people who saw that something extra in me, who will pull me aside and go, you stay over here. You know, you stay, you know, keep reading plays, stay ambitious. This. Don't let yourself be contaminated by this environment. I always had someone to pull me aside and protect me in that way, because they saw that something that I couldn't see.
Yeah.
So I spent four great years in Chicago, working my way from the ensemble up to doing principal roles. My first big principal role was at the Marriott Lincolnshire Theater, which is where I got my equity card. Was, playing Johnny Casino in Greece, because they did do colorblind casting, which is very cool. And then I played Curtis in Dreamgirls, which toured in Chicago. It was my first big tour like that.
And did you realize that this was a big deal, getting your equity card? You knew that.
Yeah,
I mean, you were like, this is.
It was huge. And then I auditioned for Miss Saigon.
In Chicago.
I was on tour with Dreamgirls. We played, and they brought in some equity members from New York to fill in some of the lead roles, the Effie in particular. We became really good friends, and she said her agent, when we went from the sit-down company at the Candlelight Dinner Playhouse,
which isn't
longer there on the west side of Chicago, he, as a favor to her, negotiated my contract. And he was like, I need to meet you at some point. So we played, I think, New Haven, and he came up and saw the show and was like, you know, you should move to New York. I was like, I'm not moving there without a job. He goes, well, if I submit you for stuff, would you be willing to come up? I said, I'll come up for an audition, sure. But I said, I can't move there. He submitted me for a few things. I remember the first time I took the bus up, and we stopped in Columbus where my sister lived, and we got to talk, and I was like, I got to watch the time, and she wants to hang out. I missed the bus. And I had to go to the audition with what I had on. And the next time I took the train up, and then, you know, I fell asleep. Somebody stole my bag. I was like, maybe New York is not for me. So then when I got the Miss Saigon audition, I was like, I'm going to put two nickels together, and I'm going to fly to New York. And I did. I flew up on I was doing South Pacific back in the ensemble at Marriott Lincolnshire. We had 2 days off. I flew up Monday morning. My audition was that morning. They were like, hey, well, we know that your agent said you have to go back to Chicago, but can you stay for the callback tonight and change your flight? And I was like, because I'm thinking, I was flew that morning, I was fly back that night. I thought,
I'm going to fly up, I'm going to audition, I'm going to get a plane and go back.
Right. And I was like, okay, sure. So I went to the nearest payphone. Yes, kids, payphone. And changed my flight, this and that, and had the call that night. And I remember meeting this guy named Henry Menendez, who was like, yeah, this is like my 9th audition. And they keep saying they're going to cancel it because there was a big controversy with Miss Saigon. Because Jonathan Pryce was cast as an Asian.
Yeah.
And I was like,
were you going to be in the New York cast, or this was for the touring cast?
This is for the New York cast. This is like the original Broadway company. And I was like, we made, because we made it all the way down to all the cuts. And then he told me this, like, this is like my 9th audition. I was like, oh, well, anyway, but it was a great audition. Like I made it to the last few. Go back to Chicago. I go do my Wednesday matinee, and I get a phone call at like 1 a.m. And my roommate at the time answers the phone. He's like, there's somebody named Vinny Liff calling you? And I was like,
oh my God.
Vinny Liff. I was like, okay. No, he didn't say Vinny Liff. He said, there's a phone call for you. And I'm like, hello. And he's like, yeah, this is Alton. I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, so congratulations. You just, you're going to be one of the original company members of Miss Saigon. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah. So you're moving to New York? I was like, okay, great. And
I have chills. Like, were you like stunned?
So it was sort of like, I mean, it takes me back to like, the thought of getting to performing arts. It was just too good to be true. That same feeling of like, So like, I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. I hung up the phone, and then I was like, this can't be. Somebody's playing a trick on me. This is just too good to be true. So I did something that you can no longer do. I star 69'd him.
Oh.
Remember? I was like, what? Star 69? I star 69. And I was like, okay. I can't believe it. So like,
is this Jeffrey? Are you punking me?
Really, dude? Because I was just like, it just seemed too good to be true. Right. I was like, okay, so if he does pick up the phone, he's going to go, this dude is insane.
Right.
Maybe
well, you had booked the gig until you started.
Exactly. Right. But I was like, I got to know, because it's just like, and I star 69, the phone rang. I was like, excuse me, is this Vinny Liff? And he goes, yes. I said, did you just call Alton White in Alton? He was like, yes, Alton, that was me. I was like, I just couldn't believe it. He goes, I thought maybe somebody was playing a trick on me. He's like, that would be a terrible trick to play on someone. He goes, yes, it was me. Congratulations, and I'll see you in New York. I just couldn't believe it, dude.
And he was like, you need some new friends.
Right.
Yeah. Who's going to do this to you?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And another thing about in terms of like instincts, we're talking about like, staying in your passion, right? Your integrity. I had gotten the 2 CD recording from Miss Saigon out of London. And I heard the song Boudoir and thought, oh my God, that song is so amazing. And I think I could sing it. It's a difficult song because it's very rangy. And I was like, I think I could sing the song. And he was cast White in London.
Yeah.
And I remember in preparing for the audition, I talked to some folks who had done Broadway or done Broadway type tours. And they were like, well, you don't really want to sing anything from the show because they get tired of hearing that song. And I was like, man. So I found another song that was similar to it with the same kind of passion. I thought, okay.
I'll at least show them that.
Yeah. So I remember when I got to the callback, and it was cool because it was on a stage. It was in a theater as opposed to like a rehearsal place. So it was like.
I've missed those days.
Yeah, it was old school. It was very old school.
Yeah. And that was in the theater. It was.
It wound up being at the Broadway, but the audition was at one of those smaller theaters on 45th Street.
Okay.
The Golden. I think it was at the Golden Theater,
right.
yeah. And I remember standing there, and it's like in a movie. They're out in the house, black, and I can't see them. The loudspeaker. Hey, what are you going to sing?
It's like chorus line.
It was very chorus line. It was like, well, what are you singing for us today? And I was like, Boudoir with like a question mark. They were like, okay, and I was like, okay, and I just kind of did my thing. So I found out, he told me, he said, you're going to be understudying Hinton Battle, who's going to be playing John.
Wow.
Whoa. They cast him black, and I get to understudy one of my heroes. It was just
wow.
And that was another thing. When in that first call, I was like, this is too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Broadway and Hinton Battle, this is like, wait a minute. And they cast him black. All of it was just like, it was.
1990.
Yeah.
And how quick did that move from Chicago? Like when you got that call, did you have to be there in a week, days, or was it months down the road?
It was a couple of months.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to have some time to prepare.
Plan. Yeah.
I know it was 1990 because I'd moved to New York, and it was the first show. I got a gig kind of in one of the local sound houses, and I helped build the sound racks that went in for Miss Saigon.
Wow.
And I vividly remember going because the helicopter and all that stuff.
Hell yeah.
So we're going in, and I helped with load in. So we were loading stuff in. I'm looking at this. I'd never seen anything like my eyes were as big as saucers. I was like, I cannot believe this.
Because we moved because that's where Les Mis. We booted Les Mis,
and they moved them down
to the Imperial or something like not the Imperial because it's where Phantom was forever, but one of those down there.
Down there.
But yeah, that's what got me to New York. Hinton won his 3rd Tony Award playing John, and after that he went down to doing 6 shows a week, and they gave me 2, and I thought, I made it.
Wow, get out,
that was going to be
man.
my question. Like, when was that seminal moment where I always use sports analogies, but like when you made the show, like when you feel like, holy cow, I made it.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah. And I mean, since we're talking, I remember during rehearsals because I really wanted to be a dancer more than anything, because even before I ever thought about possibly singing in front of anybody, I always loved to dance because I grew up watching variety shows,
sure,
and seeing the big dance, the chorus numbers. So,
and sneaking off to see the shows at Kings Island.
Exactly. Mainly, exactly. Mainly for the dancing. Really not.
You're talking about Carol Burnett.
I mean, Carol Burnett. Yeah. Laugh-In, Sonny and Cher Hour.
They were big variety shows, right? They had big numbers. They did numbers,
And you had some of your favorite TV stars you found out could sing and dance. It was like, Mary Tyler Moore sang and danced. Right? A lot of them started in theater, right? Sure. So in rehearsals, I'm working with Bob Avian, the great Bob Avian, who who assisted Michael Bennett on the chorus line. And one day at lunchtime, he was like, can you stay after for lunch? I've ordered something and I just want to talk to you. I was like, okay, somebody went to break. And he was like, he had me going over some steps. He goes, what would you do here? And I was like, well, I would do that. And then he was like, and then the next day, he pulled me aside. The next morning, he said, I was going to offer you dance captain, which could be really lucrative because, I will wind up setting it all over the world. Yeah. He goes, but I just found out that you're Hinton's first understudy. There were 3 understudies, but you're the first understudy. He goes, you have a decision to make. And I was like, Okay.
Holy crap! 'Cause
I don't know this.
By the way, that is an incredibly lucrative gig.
Dude, I mean, which Howard K wound up doing.
Wow.
Howard K wound up setting it up all over the world.
Oh my God, I
yeah.
did. That's why he's got a bar in 106.
Okay. Yes.
Shout out
pennies.
Howard.
Hey, Howard.
You walked away from that.
I did. The next day I was like, I want to perform.
Hey, Alton, let me tell you, because that is a crossroad, and you certainly know that, but that's a big, amazing thing to do.
I wasn't even thinking about money. I was like, money it's not about the money.
Well,
I don't even know. I would be like,
Well, I mean, look, sometimes it's good not to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I get, but still, that's a pretty big opportunity, and to be pulled aside like that.
I was more flattered than anything.
Yeah.
That he again saw something in me that I didn't see myself. But I thought, and it's interesting because a similar thing had happened at Kings Island, because I was always like I wasn't a trained dancer, but I could look at something and replicate it, and give it that energy and sell it. Kings Island offered me the same thing to kind of do what Scott Munning was doing.
Sure.
Setting up companies. And I was like, I'm
not
too young for that. Not yet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was interesting for it to come back around and go, wow, okay. But no.
So you ended up getting, he took a reduced schedule doing 6 shows, and then you did 2.
I did 2.
Was it like did you do just
Yeah.
Saturday matinee and evening? Or?
I think I did a Wednesday matinee and
Oh, so you took the 2 show days away from him?
Yes.
He did 6 days a week.
Exactly.
But he didn't have to do the 2 show days.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was tough because I'm down in the ensemble with the rest of the other 6 shows, and they're giving me heat. Like, oh, well, here he comes after being on. And being a very sensitive kid, it hurt my feelings. It was like, why are you being so mean?
Right.
I don't understand. You know what I mean? But again, having that facade of like, I'm tough, but inside going, I want to belong. I want to be a part of the group. And again, someone pulled me aside and said, pay them all no mind.
Yeah.
Start reading scripts. Start preparing for your next opportunity.
Yeah.
They're going to think what they're going to think no matter what you do. Whether you overcompensate.
There's people who are going to stay in the chorus.
Yeah.
And be bitter and jealous about it.
Yeah.
Right. So don't get dragged down by that.
Which is, as a kid, it's hard not to.
Yeah,
I have compassion for kids
absolutely.
because
Right.
if no matter how talented you are, if you're insecure and really want to belong, you can easily sabotage yourself.
Yeah.
And I saw where that wouldn't happen to me because, I'm sensitive, but at the same time, I'm not going to be run over or disrespected.
Yeah.
But I was grateful that this woman, Suli, pulled me aside and said, no, you're being prepared for other things. And then eventually, after the first year, Hinton did not renew his contract, and they gave me the role full time.
Wow.
Oh, outstanding.
Which is amazing.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And then we'd be here for 3 days if we spent this amount of time
Yeah.
on
I know.
every
Okay.
Broadway
Okay.
show.
Okay.
We're gonna speed it up. We're gonna speed
But I mean, so like
at some point we
highlights
do
of-
need just to provide a list of all the Broadway shows at some point.
I'm
Somehow
going
we'll do
to
that.
go through them now. Okay,
Yeah.
so after Miss Saigon, I went on to do The Who's Tommy. Well, actually, I got to go back to Chicago and play Jackie Robinson in a show called The First, which was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had.
That's a straight play?
It was a musical.
Musical, okay.
It was written by Joel Siegel,
Oh,
the
yeah,
movie
yeah.
critic. His
Yeah,
own thing he
yeah.
wrote. He actually gave me one of Jackie's baseballs, and I have a Jackie Robinson bat.
Get
Whoa, you still
out.
have them?
I do have them.
I mean, are they? Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
He's
That's
not going
really
to
cool.
sell them, Ron.
What were you going to do? A home invasion?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about doing?
I mean,
Well, hey, they they just
part of
caught
my
those
will.
other
Hey,
guys from
Tim,
Peru.
when Alton has you over, see
Yeah, exactly.
Look for that ball.
Check the schedule when he's on Monday Night Football or when he's out on the road.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they're doing to the athletes these days, right?
Hey,
They're
yeah.
breaking into their house when they're playing on.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
sorry.
crazy.
Yikes.
All right.
So you were
But anyway,
doing that.
But doing
Tommy?
that, and that changed my life because in researching, I'm not a sports fan, but in researching Jackie and realizing he was like UCLA's first 4-letter man, that he excelled in other sports, and that his whole life, like him being from the South and his mother moving them to this all-white neighborhood because she wanted better for them, he was used to being taunted. He was used to having to excel in spite of this. So he was a perfect person. He was chosen. And I thought, that's when I first learned it takes more than one thing to do it, to be exceptional at anything. That's my brain went, I need to start diversifying. It's not just about acting, singing, and dancing. It's also about business. It's about developing other parts of my personality as well. That was such a key thing for my growth.
Wow. Cool.
Came back to New York, did the Who's Tommy on Broadway, playing the Hawker. Then went on to do Smokey Joe's Cafe.
I was going to say, I have a list here. Smokey Joe's, right?
Yeah, on Broadway, and then Original London Company, and then...
How'd you like living in London?
I liked it. It took me, I was there 3 months.
Okay.
It was an exchange thing,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed like the last 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
I mean, no, I had fun, but
Yeah.
I went there expecting like a European New York, and it's a very different culture.
Yeah.
Very different.
Like, even actors, like, they don't meet at the stage door. There's a whole
Right.
different,
Yeah.
they don't
Pubs
happen
close
to the
early.
end of the
Yeah.
pub. Yeah, right.
weird,
the tube
like-
doesn't run 24. And I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Right.
So you're in Leicester Square, like competing for trying to get a cab to go, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ragtime.
Yes. Then from there, my ragtime journey started. Replaced Stokes in Toronto. The show had been open for maybe 2 months, and he left to prepare for the LA company, and I went to replace him with the original company.
Was it
for 8 months.
sitting down, or you were
I
on?
was sitting in Toronto.
Okay.
How'd you like
Yeah.
Toronto?
I love Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto was amazing.
a
So
beautiful
clean
town.
and
Yep.
peaceful. Then I wound up opening the national tour of Ragtime, and right before we were coming to Cincinnati, they offered me to replace Stokes in the Broadway company, and I got one of my dreams came true. I'm on the actual final show poster for Ragtime.
Oh,
nice.
wow.
Oh, cool.
Then my Lion King journey started. I opened the national tour.
Well, so how did it come to be?
Did you audition for it once, 2
Yeah.
times, 3 times a lady? Like what?
Yeah. Okay. I see you, brother. Okay. I'm sorry. Everything's a story, but I'll try to make this one short. So
Great.
By the way,
So-
I absolutely loving listening to you talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
this.
this
is
is
the
cool.
me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you, man. I just love that. Like, I'm talking to folks that are like from my town. You know what I mean? Like my home brothers. This is awesome. This is awesome for me as well. So, I had a big thing with live ed. So while I was doing, I did the national part of the national tour of Joseph Dreamcoat with Donny Osmond. That's when my ragtime thing really started. And I reached a point where I was like, I'm tired of being in the ensemble. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, and it's not even, it's part of it's an ego thing, but part of it's like, I'm tired of blending in. I'm ready to like really.
I'm ready to step
Yeah,
out in
yeah.
front
I've
now.
had after everything I told you I struggled with early in my life. I'm ready to like
Yes.
take that chance and jump and expose myself. And it was when I was in the 11th grade. I remember going to see the movie at the Skywalk Theater.
Sure.
Skywalk.
And walking out of there like, oh my goodness. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I've got to be an actor. Seeing Howard Rollins,
Yeah.
his vulnerability, and I thought, I want to learn how to make people feel like that, because we're all sitting there in awe at the end of the movie. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this dude. So the musical version was like, again, another like seemingly impossible dream, right?
Right. Somebody made this for you.
Yeah,
It
right.
almost felt like somebody made that for you.
But except somebody was already precast. You know what I mean? But it was like, okay, but I was like, but I like to be a part of it, right? So I get the audition because I'm working for Live Ent. Live Ent, you've heard of Live Ent.
Sure.
That's another podcast, another episode. I'm working for Live Ent because they're doing the tour and they're doing Ragtime in Toronto. And I get an audition. The tour is in Detroit, and they want me to come to Toronto. So all I had to do was, cross the bridge to Windsor, take the train up, audition. Now, when I auditioned for Joseph, which was an ensemble role, basically one of the brothers, they flew me to Toronto, gave me a per diem, sent me back. I was like, now they like, no, you get yourself there. And I was like, I want it. Okay, I don't care. I'll do
Yeah.
it. They gave me a deal for rehearsal. Would have had an audition, felt good about it, came back, and I knew they liked me. And talked to my manager, I'm like, okay, this is an opportunity to make that bump. It's like, I'm willing to stand by for him, but I'm not doing any more ensemble. And, so we approached them that way. And Garth Jabinski just went bananas. You talk about an ego. To the point of like calling my manager, cussing her out. Who do you think you are to turn down one of my shows, so-and-so. And then he was calling me at home, dude.
What?
He was calling me. I was like, you have nothing better to do. This dude is calling me like, who do you think you are? This is an opportunity of a lifetime. How dare you say no to me, so-and-so? And I'm like, talking to this man and having to hang up and shaking like, I can't believe I'm having these conversations with him.
Wow.
He just would not take no. And finally, after And then the show moved to Boston, and I'm staying with relatives in Framingham, and he's calling that house.
What?
Yeah, my aunt is like, they're sitting on the phone, and I'm like,
had a stalker.
Wow.
That dude,
was your first stalker?
me, right? Dude, I thought about it that way. Yes.
Right.
Do you owe him money? No,
no.
I turned him down.
I turned him down, right?
But I got Jackie Robinson's bow. You didn't have that yet.
Not yet,
That's when
right.
he comes in after me.
Oh man, no, I did have it.
Oh, you did have it. All right.
But I remember saying to him, I was like, Garth, I thank you. I appreciate all the energy you're putting into this step, but I'm at a point where I'm just not going to do ensemble anymore, man. You have to understand that. Yeah. And he was like, well, you're in the ensemble of one of my shows right now. And I took a deep breath and I said, well, Garth, you have the honor of saying that you're the last person to have ever had Alton Fitzgerald White in the ensemble of one of your shows. And I hung up and I was like, oh. And at this point, like my aunt.
Wait, I got a mic drop here.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
At this point, my cousin and my aunt they're used to these calls, so they're like, just listening to my reactions because because they know it's going to be crazy. And after that, they were like, I was like, can you believe this? Like, no, we can't believe any of this.
That is the full-on craziest
And I was
thing.
like, I'm so glad I have witnesses that it's because nobody would believe it. So I'm like, what am I going to do? And people, actors are like, the creative team, they're like going like, hey, we got some good news. We heard good things about you. Because they're thinking, okay, they like my audition. I'm just going to take whatever they offer me.
Right.
And I was like, and I finally was like, well, I turned them down. They're like,
actors don't say no to gigs.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, you don't-
And especially black actors.
Right.
Black male actors don't say no to
And
an
especially
opportunity.
because our producer's insane and will hunt you down.
Exactly. right. Kill you and make your spirit do the gig. Okay, that kind of control. And I was that was kind of feeling like, oh man, this doesn't feel good because my friends in the ensemble and in the dressing room, dressing rooms can be.
Oh yeah.
Like who do you think you are? And I
Right.
was just like, dude. And I remember I got an audition for Smoker Joe's Cafe. My manager's like, hey, can you? It's on a Monday, which was great because it was a day off. So I drove down for the audition and was there because they've been open for about 2 months, and one of the leads and Audrey McDonald had booked a film in
Never
Europe.
heard of her.
Yeah, she's still up
She
and
went
coming.
under nothing.
Yeah, she's
Come anything.
She's kind of a nobody. Sorry,
right.
Didn't quite work out for her 6 or 7 times. So like every black man on the planet showed up for this audition. I was like, well, let me see, and it got down to 20, 15, 10, and I wound up booking. I was like,
Wow.
can you cuss on here?
You can do whatever you want.
I was
man.
like, fuck. I was like, I like fucking booked this gig. Oh my God. But then I had to sit on it. I was like, okay, because I couldn't go I had to wait the proper 4 weeks to give.
Right.
And I was like, I can't wait. And finally that day came when I turned in my letter and I was like, I am out of here. And got to go do it on Broadway for about 3 months. And then when they decided to do the London, they did the London before they did the tour. They were like, they wanted me to audition again. And I was like,
for a part you were doing.
Yeah.
but I've already done it.
Nah, that's
Right.
crazy.
Wait, not even that. But this is how absurd things are. And,
Yeah.
and again, it comes back to your own personal integrity, but also knowing that, hey, if I want it, I've got to show up.
Right.
I can't be entitled. Nobody owes me anything. So I went back to the audition, and of course, my fellow actors are like, well, what are you doing here? You've already done the role. Like, and I had to blank that out and go, look, I'm here to get the gig and prove that I deserve it. Now, this is something that made it even more absurd. While I was in rehearsals for learning Ken's track, he got hurt, and they were on understudies. Actually, went on before I finished my rehearsals. So I thought, I proved myself. This dude can do it. So then when they called me to audition again for the company, I was like, you're kidding me, right?
Yeah.
Is this a joke? Is this thing on? You know what I mean?
Wow.
But again, it was like, okay.
Is that a power play?
I don't know.
It's like-
You know, I can't.
Was
I
it
don't know.
different? Was there a different creative team? Was it
No,
different producers? It's the same
exact
people.
Same
I
team.
mean, I could see if it was like another whatever, and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, but
different
you
production
bring 'em in.
company.
Yeah,
No, it's the
right.
same folks. But I was like, okay. So
They're like,
I
this
went
guy's
in.
an all-star. He plays third base. Well, just hit him some balls. Let me see if he can
Right.
handle it.
Yeah.
Can you?
What?
Yeah. But you know,
Yeah.
life can be absurd like that, right?
No,
and to
yeah.
me, those are personal tests of like, I can let my ego go, well, forget it,
Right.
or go, no, I want this job, I want to do this, and if I don't show up, if I don't have my number in the hat, my number can't be picked.
Well, you have.
You know what I mean?
There's two sides to this coin. One is to have the integrity to say to the producer on the phone, "That's the last time I'm going to be in the chorus," and you have that honor. And the next to have the humility, if you will,
Exactly.
to turn up and say, "But I do want to do this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if this is the hoop they're going to make me jump through,
Right.
if I got to go dance for my dinner,
Yeah.
then I'm going to go do that because
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Exactly. And
Right?
and career-wise, I knew it would be a great bump to have. I mean, so few of us get a chance to work in London.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
I was like, I want to have this experience. Yeah, and also something I want to point out, I made sure that I could afford to make these kind of moves. You know, the what I'm writing now, which is kind of in flux for a couple of different reasons. I'm writing. We're going to book about finance. You know, for people who are self-employed, just about relationships with money. And part of my frustration, I was able to like when I was doing the course of Tommy. And really like, I didn't tell you about that part. Goodness. Well, I was doing Tommy, and that's when I was really started getting me like, I'm tired of being in the chorus. Like I'm one of the guys carrying Tommy. Like I want to be carried. Like, like wait a minute. And I remember I wound up leaving Tommy, and my friends thought I was insane.
Yeah.
Like, you're leaving a Broadway show, because there weren't a lot of roles for black actors
Right.
at that point. I was like, there's something in me saying that it's time to go, and if I stay here, my frustration will potentially infect my environment. And I worked too hard on my reputation.
And you're going to become one of those people.
One of those
Yeah.
jaded people
Right,
who's
right,
sitting there
right.
who didn't leave when they
Right.
got the call.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, what I'm going to do is start to financially prepare, so that when I leave, when I just had enough, because I was getting stomach aches going to the theater.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll know when it's time to go, and I'll be able to afford to go. And that kind of set me up for telling Garth, no, dude.
Yeah.
You know, because we were making great money
Yeah,
on the
sure.
ensemble of Joseph. Like I was making more in the ensemble on tour with Joseph than I made those 3 months playing in Smokey Joe's Cafe. It was
On
a great
Broadway.
on Broadway,
Yeah,
because
wow.
we had a great salary plus per diem.
Per diems,
Right.
yeah.
So I was like, I set myself up to go, thank you, but this is my last chorus gig. So, and that's so I just want to stress that, you know, it helps if you can afford to make, I call them like the difference between a money move and a career move. Whereas if you're talented, and we're all talented in some way, somebody will hire you. But a career needs to be crafted. That means like knowing when to say no,
Yeah.
to hold out for like, this gig may not pay me big dollars, but artistically, it's going to do something else for me. It's going to put me in a different league. You have to be able to afford to do that. If
Exactly.
money's your main motivator,
Work on Wall Street.
yeah. But as an artist,
Yeah.
Well, but yes, but you made the conscious decision to know that, and you didn't come from a situation where you had it.
No,
So
no,
you're
no.
like, okay, I have the opportunity to earn it, but I can't spend every dollar I make today,
And
so that
it's-
tomorrow I can make that choice.
exactly.
Now, is there somebody like in so many other, situations
Like a
that
mentor?
pulled you aside to,
Yes,
was
there
there
was.
some? Okay,
There was a mentor. He was one of the first black male stage managers on Broadway. Like he was stage manager for Wiz, Sophisticated Ladies. I met him right before Smokey Joe's Cafe, and he kind of mentored me. So when I showed up for the audition, because he was a stage manager there, he was like, I can't believe Alton might pick this gig. Because he didn't want them to know that I knew him or that he knew me. And when it came down to me and another guy, they were like, well, does anybody know this other guy, this Alton? And friends of Ken were like, Ken? And he was like, well, I never worked with Alton, but he's reliable and he's very talented. That's all they would say. Because he was like, I couldn't believe I sat there watching all these guys cut and like, is he really going to get this gig?
Right.
But he was my mentor, and he was the one I called. I remember I showed up to Tommy, and I was just like, my stomach was hurting. I was like, this is not good, And I called him on the payphone. I said, Kenny, I said, dude, man, I said, I'm having a hard time. He goes, let me just ask you one question. Is it painful? I said, it's painful. He goes, you have to leave.
Wow.
He said, because somebody deserves that slot somebody who's excited about it, and there's clearly something else for you. And I was like,
that's huge.
And that was the validation I needed,
huge.
somebody that I really trusted.
It is huge.
And I remember there was like,
you don't leave because you don't leave. Look, I understand you framing and going about opportunities for black men, opportunities to get that job at all for anybody, and then you parse it all the way down to this. People don't leave those gigs.
But I think,
but that's, I mean, it's great. It's a testament because, and that advice is fantastic. Because whatever you felt when you got the gig originally was completely gone.
Yeah.
And his advice to you is there's the next one. There's a next person back there who would give anything
to have this experience.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Well,
And then not only that, but how that will eventually come back around and start affecting your reputation, affecting your performance.
Exactly. I was like, I don't want to ruin my reputation by staying too long at the party.
Right.
Knowing when to leave.
Leave a day early versus a day late.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Wow. I always feel I like to use that analogy or the visual of like, you go to like a bar, that everything is great, you're having a good time, and you're like, it's peaked, I should leave. But you stay, and next thing you know, the lights have turned on, you see how dirty the floor is. You're like, I should have left hours ago when I got that sign.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be that guy.
Take your money off the table, had a big win, high five everybody.
Go celebrate. Go on with your life. Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway, Tommy, Smokey Joe's, Ragtime,
I think we're there.
Yeah. I told you Garth was like, and then I went to do Smokey Joe's in London, and then I came back and they were already casting for the tour. Okay, I replaced Stokes in Toronto. I was contracted to go to LA to pick up that company. Got everything I asked for, and at the last minute I thought, you know what? Let me ask for first refusal, because the company, when I got to Toronto, the company was pissed. Because Stokes and one other person, they were the only people who were allowed to leave.
And for the listeners at home, you want to tell them what first refusal is?
First refusal is if I'm doing the role, that means I have first dibs. I have first dibs at it. They can't. It's in my contract that if a role that I'm understudying or a role that I'm doing on tour, if it opens up on Broadway, that I get the first rights to it. So they can't just hire some unknown.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, let's just ask for that. And apparently Garth went off again. Who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah.
We've already established that.
We've already
established who I think I am. Right?
And he asked my manager, is that a deal breaker? It's like, yes, because the company was upset with me replacing Stokes because that understudy thought that he would be bumped into the slide. So here I come. I hadn't done any of the workshops. I was working for him. I was doing Joseph.
Interesting. No, that is fascinating, right? Yeah. Because now all of a sudden you're like, oh, you swooped in, but
exactly.
Having had that happen, having you done that,
I was like, I don't want that to happen to me. Yeah, it's like if I go to LA and suddenly Stokes gets a movie or something, I don't want to be stuck in LA.
Yeah.
So I thought it's smart, and it's a business thing, right? He took it very personally. He took everything personally because of his ego, and so we were like, no, it's It's a deal breaker. So we're waiting to hear back from them. A week goes by, and then after about a week, my manager gets a call from one of his assistants going, how are you doing? And my manager's like, I'm fine. How's Alton? Alton's fine. She's like, we just wanted to know, how he's handling the news. Like, what news? Well, she's like, you don't know? It's like, no, we've been waiting for you to call us back. She was like,
this dude had the assistant drop it on you?
Yes. So apparently, after their last conversation a week ago, the next morning he called my understudy to his office and said, how would you like to open LA?
OMG.
So the entire company had known for a week.
Oh, my God.
So I got to work that night. I was like, okay. And the first thing I did was like, I said, hey, can I see you? Would you mind coming to my dressing room at intermission? And he was like, okay. And this is somebody who was pissed because he'd understudied me in a couple other shows. In Chicago, he'd understudied me.
Was he the person who, when you came into the role, who thought he was going to get it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was like, hey, dude, I know you wanted this. I'm so happy for you. Have the best time. I hope it's everything that you want it to be, man.
That is
And he was like,
awesome.
I was like, yeah, dude, this is your dream. You got it. And it's interesting because in my gut, even though they gave me the money I asked for, it didn't feel right. I was like, I just don't really see myself in LA. But I thought maybe the first refusal thing, maybe it's a sign that that's security. So when that wound up being a deal breaker, I was like, that wouldn't even be smart for me to do it.
Right.
You know? And then when I got back to New York, you know, I had some of my colleagues, you know, like, yeah, I heard you got fired, who would say that shit to me and to my face. And I was like, I said, I was made an offer that I could refuse, and I refused it.
Godfather.
And I was like, I'm not going to go around explaining that to everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to think that?
Right.
So then when I go, then I do the Smoky Joe's, I wind up getting London. When I come back, they're already casting for the tour. And I have friends calling me, so what was it like? You know, what should I do? And I'm giving them tips about like, well, go in there confident, know your stuff, blah, blah, blah. They seem to be looking for this kind of thing. And they hired someone, the negotiations broke down. Garth went off. And this thing I know, I get a call from Annie Allen, his assistant going, she called everybody Sweetie Darling. She was British. Well, Sweetie Darling, how are you? I was like, I'm well. She's like, well, you know, we're casting the tour. I was like, yeah, I heard about that. She goes, well, we just wondered if you'd be interested. And I was like, absolutely. Call Renee and we'll work it out. Because she was expecting I was like, I learned with business is almost never personal.
Yeah.
Right.
It may feel personal, but it's about the bottom line.
Yeah.
And I was like, call and work it out. An hour later, okay, you got this plus first refusal.
Nice.
All this could have been avoided had it given to me in the first place.
Right.
Because this person who wound up going out there to the other company, I was saying earlier, like, not everybody's a soloist. This person wasn't a soloist.
Oh.
You know, he was a great understudy, but he couldn't sustain 8 shows a week because there's training, there's stamina that you need, right?
Oh, man.
So he learned this lesson. I remember the first day of rehearsal, and I was excited because like I was kind of like put into the show.
Yeah.
Like by the time I got to Toronto to replace Stokes, the creative team had moved into California.
Yeah.
So I like didn't have any time with them. So now I got to build my Cold House with them. They changed some of the keys. They gave me different choreography, which is what I really, really wanted.
And it's what's also fascinating is I would that a person like that you had the temerity to stand up to, then ultimately had to back down continually multiple times, and come back to you, and you then were absolutely.
Thank you, because that's what I meant to say. I mean, the first day of rehearsal for the tour, he practically ran for me. I was like, oh, no, you're not going to run for me.
Yeah. No, right.
Yeah. And I finally called him and said, hey, Garth, I just want to say it's really good to see you, and I'm really looking forward to working with you again.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Because I was like, I'm not going to cuss you out.
No,
like, dude,
I
get it. It's business.
But also, that's a bully, too.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to deal with a bully.
Yeah, because I was like, dude, you know, we're not going to do that, like, avoiding each other.
No.
Like, come on, life is too short.
Dude, it's almost like you just stood still and he, you know, he just kind of started swinging at the air and tired him down.
Yeah, another thing since we're here, I remember after, you know, closing Toronto after my negotiations broke down and, you know, making peace with my understudy and finishing the run, we had a big party and people were upset because everybody moved on, him included. They'd gone to LA, so they weren't around, you know, because the offices were where the theater was. Yeah. And he had this big party. He shows up and like, yeah, you know, the theater's going to be ready in time for New York because they had combined 2 theaters to make the new theater. And I kept trying to find him to go just to say thank you for this opportunity. This is the first time he tried to run for me, and I'm like trying to find him. And finally, I pulled him. I said, "Garth, man, I keep trying to. I just want to tell you, thank you so much, man, for this. This has been an opportunity of a lifetime." He cuts me off and starts yelling at me.
Oh, still carrying.
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah. So this is before. Yeah, this is like at the end, and I remember everybody's sad because the day we closed was the same day of Princess Diana's incident. So everybody's kind of like, oh. But it was kind of at the same time like, okay, well, at least we have the show to look forward to. We've had this 8-month run here, and we're going to Broadway from here, so on, so on, so. But he started yelling, and after he started getting really loud, people started turning around. I was like, dude, I just wanted to say thank you. And I'm shaking. I just go outside. And then Annie Allen, his assistant, comes out. She goes, Alton, I'm so sorry that happened. She goes, he's really upset. He really wanted you. But his ego got the best of him. I'm like, I just wanted to say thank you. This has been the opportunity of a lifetime.
It's fascinating. His assistant running around and apologizing and actually knowing it. Yeah, right? Because clearly he did want you.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And he can't force you, bully you into what he wants.
No.
To the point where okay, I'll get somebody else. I'll get the wrong person.
And dude, it wasn't like I was like, you're never gonna find it.
No.
I was
Yeah.
like, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. But at the same time, I was like, if I go against my own integrity, I'll have to live with that.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, and I'd done that before before I knew better. I was like, I'm not doing that at this point. That's not gonna get me where I want to go. You know.
And then do we lead this into The Lion King? Is that
Yes.
is
Okay.
that-
Yes. Okay. So I just got back from Smokey Joe's. They were auditioning for the LA company. That's what it was. It wasn't the tour yet. Auditioning for an LA company. And I'm giving folks advice, blah, blah, blah. And they call and go, hey, we want to fly you out to audition for the LA company. I'm like, okay, great. I fly out there. I have to create a team again, have a good audition. Garth pulls me into a room and goes, you got the job. I'm like, oh, shit, wow. Okay, I got the job. He goes, but there's a catch. There's a chance you might be going to Toronto instead. I'm like, what? What do you mean Toronto? And he goes, well, I can't really tell you why. I'm like, well, you can't tell me what it's riding on. I can't tell you any of that. He goes, so there'll be two different sets of negotiations. One for if you go to Toronto, one if you go to LA. And I'm thinking, here I am going to be replacing someone again. Because at this point, I was like, I replaced Hinton.
You've done this
I done-
already.
And I was like,
right.
oh,
Dance
man.
this dance.
Because I'm thinking this is going to be a chance to work with the original company, right?
And this is for Lion King.
No,
Is
this
that
is this is Ragtime.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So I have my audition. I fly back, and I'm like, okay, so I don't know if I'm gonna, how long it's gonna be because it's two different sets of negotiations. In the meantime, they're talking about the Lion King, and I've already done a couple of workshops, and folks are still like, Lion King is the dumbest idea ever.
Well, I think it's important to pause there.
Yeah.
The NattyCast is proudly brought to you by Paco Lago Productions. This show is hosted by Tim Barker, Rex Stull, and Ron Thomas. Produced and edited by Matthew Lake and associate produced by Ethan Spanja. Special thanks to Sadie Kern at Pop Gun Flow for the graphics and to Brando Triantafilu for the original theme song. Feel free to follow us at _NattyCast on Instagram or head to our website, thenattycast.com. You can get this show wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you next time.